Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. This is our show for Friday, January 29th. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatal, back with you in the Brooklyn Bunker. Once again, the frigid Brooklyn Bunker. This might be a shorter show than usual because by the end of it, I don't want to look like Nicholson at the end of The Shining. But this sweater's warm. We're going to get through. We've got some great stuff for you. Interesting Triple Crown preparatory action and stakes racing from California and from Gulfstream Park. We'll start off out in California. We'll cover the Golden Hour Pick 4 as well. And to do that with us, we bring in the usual co-host of this program, coming to you from his home studio in the planet Texas. There's a lot going on the top of his head. He's the people's champion, Jonathan Kitchen. What's up, JK?
Yeah, this is oh, drop my pen. This is put conditioner in it and leave it look. And then the TV look is a little bit more engaged. So look. This is how it goes, right? This is how it goes.
How's your posture been going? Are you still working with your coach? You're singing before you come on air and sitting up very straight and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he doesn't see this. I was hungover one day and had to cancel, so I think I'll pick that back up next week.
Speaking of being hungover, I guess I wasn't quite hungover yet, but it was my brother's birthday. My brother's 45th birthday yesterday. We did a safe and socially distanced celebration at one of the many restaurants in New York that's found creative ways of doing outdoor dining. So the drinking started at 1 p.m. and it continued apace, which is my excuse. Please don't tell today's second guest on the show this, but that's my excuse for falling asleep before the Eclipse Awards really even started last night. I know you were there watching eagerly, JK. How did the show come off? What are your thoughts the morning after?
Yeah, I mean, no real big surprises. Obviously, I was for personal and for opinion reasons. I was rooting for Vekoma, so a little disappointed for that. But it's not a over the top disappointment. Obviously, happy for Bob LaPinta and Madikit and the old warrior Whitmore. What a cool horse he is and a very deserving horse of the award. I felt like Vekoma's year and what he had accomplished was worthy as well. Outside of that, congratulations to Brad Cox, obviously on his first Eclipse Award, first of many, I would imagine. Irad, seems like Irad and Jose might be going back and forth for quite some time. And it's always fun to celebrate our equine stars and the stars of our game. And I caught myself smiling quite a bit watching the show. They did a great job with how they kind of handled it. They spent a lot of time at Spendthrift. Brittany Urton was at one point had Authentic behind her, and he started kind of acting up, and you could see the kind of fear in her eye for a second and a half when he was back there rattling the chain, and so. Janine Edwards was involved. She was like kind of petting a little foal. It was fun. It's fun to watch those stars. So I enjoyed it. It's fun to watch, and congratulations to all the winners.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if it was the Met 7 furlongs and not the Met mile, maybe that Vekoma case could have gotten over the top. But I know you viewed it as a wild card that could be looked at in every category, but I'm sure a lot of people thought sprinter, it's a mile, technically not a sprint. And then I think you get into the default to the Breeders' Cup mode. I love both horses and personally have connections to both operations. So it was one of the ones I was interested to see what would happen. Not surprised by the way it went down. I could definitely understand you're feeling a little disappointed by that. Any other surprises for you throughout the course of the night in terms of any of the award winners?
No. I mean, I think it was all pretty straightforward who was going to win. I think V-Quist and Authentic was likely to win the ones he won, and Probable and Monomoy Girl, obviously, and Rushing Fall. I was a little bit nervous that they would somehow.
That was close. That one was super tight, man.
Yeah, I was a little, which is ridiculous. Your lazy ridiculousness voting for Tarnawa. So I was happy about that. She's one of my favorite horses of all time. I'm fairly certain she's in my top 5 of all time favorite horses. So it was a lot of cool stuff, and it was, like I said, it was fun to watch. And it was also, sometimes the Eclipse Awards can get a little bit long. You got all these, guys and gals who want to stand up there and just go on and on and on. And
I
because
can think
it
of
was
one in particular from recent vintage who
yeah,
definitely.
but the because it was so it was recorded, everything was pretty tight, so it was good. I enjoyed it.
I was sad they didn't bring that guy who gave out the Apprentice Jockey Award from 4 or 5 years ago. Whatever happened to that kid?
I don't know. I tell you what, that guy dodged a bullet because I almost did a Steve Harvey joke, but someone did one before me. So they got the kind of the crickets, and I was smart enough to be able to be like, not going on that road.
Among your many talents being an Eclipse Award host. Let's talk about these races, JK. We're going to do the last 5 from Santa, then we'll pivot up to Golden Gate. We'll remind folks, of course, about the player-friendly Golden Hour double and pick 4 from our friends at Santa Anita. This is super horse player-friendly stuff that we want everybody to be paying attention to on these Saturdays and Sundays. I've had some questions about the weather and if the card Saturday is in jeopardy. I feel like they're going to get it sealed. Obviously, they're not running tonight on the Friday, but I think it's going to be fine, hopefully, for Saturday with the ability to seal it. You have any fear about them not being able to run at Santa this weekend?
No, I mean, it sounds like they kind of have it under control. Obviously, they dodged, if I'm not mistaken, they dodged all turf racing on Saturday. They have an 8-race card, no turf racing. So I think they'll be fine. And they have some stakes too, some big 3-year-old stakes. The Robert Lewis, it feels like they'll be fine to run.
We're going to kick off our coverage with race number 4. It is a maiden optional claimer going 1 mile on the dirt for 4 and up, fillies and mares. I thought this one was pretty straightforward. I'm curious if you share my feeling on this one. Who do you like in here?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to go in circles and tell you all I'm just ice cold to the 2. I mean, they're going to have to. I don't see how they beat the horse. The horse ran fast last time. And also, I think it's important to note, not only did the horse run fast last time, the horse ran in an allowance race last time as a maiden. I guess they just felt like they wanted to run. They felt like the horse had a chance. The horse was 5-1 in that allowance race, facing winners. Now, not only is dropping back to maiden special weight company, or quote unquote, they're dropping to the maiden, that kind of optional maiden thing they're doing out there. If you're not familiar, you haven't seen it yet. The conditions are for fillies and mares, 4 years old and up that were bought at auction for 150 or less, or horses making their 5th career start, or they're in for 50,000. So this is obviously an easier spot than even a maiden special weight. I think the 2 is going to be extremely hard to beat. Ice cold single in the pick 5.
Nothing to add. I was going to read the conditions if you didn't hit that note, but seems tailor-made perfectly to fit number 2, This T, who will hopefully get our pick 5 off to a winning start. We have agreement on number 2, This T, to start things off in this pick. As we move on to race number 5, the Grade 2 San Pasquale Stakes, going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt for 4 and up. And I'm curious to get your take on this one. My top pick is going to be number 2, Idol. Looks really good to me, this late developing Curlin. I wasn't thrilled with the way the trip worked out last time, being kind of directed down to the rail last time in the stretch on a day when I didn't think that was necessarily the place you wanted to be. Idol seems like a horse for whom there will be more to come. I also thought that number 4, Express Train, made a whole lot of sense. The distance should be a plus for this one and fits on figures. And I thought the play for me really might be mostly against number 3, King Guillermo, who certainly could improve second time off the long layoff, but just fell away so tamely last time that I was going to take more of a wait-and-see approach. Who do you like in the San Pasquale?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this is definitely an opportunity to make some money by fading a horse that has that name recognition. Obviously, the horse was a buzz horse leading into the Kentucky Derby, the September Kentucky Derby. He had that kind of stunning workout. He's got the great story with the ownership group, and I just felt like it was an opportunity to try to beat this horse. He's never really done a whole lot of running outside of the time he was 50-1 down in Tampa Bay, and I understand that he's got some fast works and he's kind of that buzz type. He ran second in the Arkansas Derby, but I just don't think he's that great, and I think he's going to be bet like he is, and I'm going to try to beat him with the 1, 2, and the 4. A top pick I'd give to the 4. Drawn towards the outside, ran well in the Malibu, has run longer, and is outside of all the main competition, which is where I want to be on the dirt.
Shall I call it 4, 1, 2 in that order? All as A's for you?
Yeah, I mean, if you need to order 4-2-1, but yeah, all is ace. I'm going to try to beat the 3 here. Won't have the 3 on a ticket. If King Guillermo wins, I lose.
There you go. Race number 6. We're on the dirt at 6 furlongs. Optional claimers, 62,000. Non-winners of 2. And this one goes right back to you, JK. Who do you like in here?
The 3 Loudmouth is a horse that I like in here. I think the horse. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's a one that, if you look at his past performances, had a little bit of a break from November until January, and then was wide that day. And it was a day where I just felt like losing ground was not ideal. Not that the inside was good, but just the geometry comes into play. And when you're losing ground, it's harder to run at a high clip. This horse has nice figures in the past. I also think that there's an opportunity for this horse to improve second off of a break. So I like the 3 Loudmouth. I think there'll be some value in there as well. A lot of people will gravitate towards the 1 Speed Pass, another A horse for me. But this is one of those horses where it has those 2 first races for Baffert were remarkable, and then has just kind of been a horse in the last couple. And so let's see if this horse can kind of bounce back. The tote board is gonna definitely lean that the horse is gonna bounce back, but I'm going to try to get the 3 involved because I think there'll be a little bit more value there.
I'm just going to call that 3-1. Did you have any backups you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I wanted to use the 5. Came in off a long layoff last time from July till December. Should run better second time around. So I think 3-1-5 for me.
I'll put it 3-1 as A's, B as the B course being the 5, or do you want the A3 to stand alone?
No, it can be 3-1 as A's and the 5 as a B.
Boom. I'm with you. Reading each other's mail. Loudmouth Sharp coming back in a couple of weeks. Possible pace edge in the spot. Comes out best for me on figs anyway, and like you indicated, should improve. So not much to add there. As we move along to our stakes action, I've got a whole write-up of this. I'll put a blog post up on inthemoneypodcast.com, or you can just go directly to attheraces.com if you want to read my thoughts on every runner in the Grade 3 Bob Lewis Stakes, going a mile and a 16th for 3-year-olds, of course. And my short answer is, I don't have my thing in front of me here, but I was interested in maybe trying to get a horse at a price to run in the number. This is one of these where it's complicated doing the betting for the UK because I'm seeing the prices right now that are available on the likes of Rombauer and also Roman Centurion, and they're kind of crazy. They're both available right now at 33-1 over there. So if you have the opportunity to bet them each way, because there are 8 runners in this field, you can get a fifth the win odds for the horse to run 1, 2, or 3. So we're talking about, getting $14 to show on those 2 runners. Hello, that sounds real good to me. In truth, I don't love either one to win. I mean, I think they'll be both finishing and have a great chance to run on into the number, and I wouldn't rule them either out on the win end. But I think I'm going to focus a lot of my action in this spot trying to get those 2 up into the number. Likely winners, maybe not, but tremendous value. And that's the way I see this in one where I'm imagining the horse at the top of the market is just going to get hammered, possibly to unplayable numbers right now in the UK. Medina Spirit clocking in about 3-5. That's just short enough for me in a race that I think is a really talented field. Super interested to get your take, JK. What do you like?
Yeah, I actually picked Rombauer on top. It's just a horse that I know Michael McCarthy was pretty high on when he ran to the American Pharoah, enough to put him on the plane and send him over to Keeneland and run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I don't think he necessarily had an excuse that day. The pace was pretty quick, and this horse was chasing that. Was outside, was closing into that pace. So probably should have been picking up pieces like he was late. But I do think there's an opportunity for this horse to improve. There's that big foundation as a 2-year-old, ran 4 times as a 2-year-old, making that first start as the distances get longer. I think this horse will run better. The one Medina Spirit obviously is one you need to use and one you have to consider. Ran second to Life is Good, but it's Baffert. It's a dirt race. It's Triple Crown. The horse is going to be bet. He's going to be much shorter than he probably deserves to be, but he is definitely one that you want to keep in the mix. And then I like the other Baffert, the 8 Spielberg. I remember Bob was concerned before the Bob Hope about this horse shipping Sometimes he can get a little funny when he ships. He, kind of can leave his race on the van, and also was worried about the distance that day. Did not run well in the Bob Hope, came back in the Los Alamitos Derby and ran well. And I think the longer the distances, drawn outside in a grindy way, I think Spielberg will run better in here. So I was tempted to put Spielberg in front of Medina Spirit, but those are horses I'm going to use as A horses. All three of them. The rest of them will have to beat me.
Okay, makes sense to me. Again, for much more from me on that one, you can go ahead and take a look at the article I wrote over at atheraces.com. Let's move on to our last race, JK. I seem to have lost it in my notes. Not sure what's happening today in the bunker. I think the cold weather isn't good for my brain here. What are we looking at? What kind of race is it first and foremost? While I find myself,
I think it's a 50 maiden claimer for Calbreds. I'm going to go to the outside. I like the 12 Gabby Hayes. When it comes to these not lower level horses, not that there's anything wrong with a maiden 50, but I like horses that are going to get in the clear and just be able to run. I don't want my horses getting stopped or have to quicken out of holes or overcome pace situations. And I just think Gabby Hayes is tactical, is dropping from maiden special weight, and will just be sitting right out there on the outside in the clear. Might lose a little bit of ground, but won't get stopped. Down towards the inside, the one Crash Corrigan is one that if you look at the past performances, the last race was not good. That was around 2 turns. The race before that was a sprint, and it was good. Let's pretend the 2-turn race didn't happen. Let's see if the sprint performance can come back up again. Crash Corrigan runs better. And then the 6, the Loot Is Mine, puts the blinkers on. This horse is always bet. Maiden special weight, maiden 50, sprinting on the turf, going 5, going 6.5, and now is dropping in for the tag again. Maybe the blinkers are what's going to help this one get it figured out. I want to use all 3 of those as A horses and the 9 Sabuda as a B horse. This is a drop as well. This horse took some money last time after getting Lasix and blinkers for the first time. Didn't run that great. Did run 3rd, beaten 8, but now shows up for a tag, and I think will run better. I want to use that one as a B horse. I'll use 1, 6, and 12 as A's, with the 12 being the top choice.
All right, well, we got you 12, 1, 6 on the A line, with the 9 as a B. Lots of same numbers for me. I went ahead and put the 1 Crash Corrigan on top, just as you pointed out. Back to a sprint. You look at that sprint race 2 back. That's the best figure. Very obvious. Should get a good trip, I think. Number 9 Sabuda, just obvious on figs. Possible pace edge. Those would be my 2 A's, with Gabby Hayes being a B for me. Better last time on dropping in light. I mean, lots of reasons, including the ones that you said, that I want that. Do you know that name at all? Gabby Hayes, JK, do you know what that's from?
I know 2 Gabbies, the one that does backflips and the one that talks about horses. Those are the only Gabbies I know. So
this Gabby's a guy, and was in this is a legit Boomer reference. So I'm reaching above my own actual
surprised. So surprised the Boomer reference.
But he was, in like cowboy movies with Roy Rogers and such. Anyway, we'll have to get at some point. I'd love to hear the story of how a horse in 2021 came to be named Gabby Hayes. Big fan of cowboy movies, I guess. Let's talk about this.
Is there a now you got me wondering now. Is there a who's the sire and who's the dam?
Yeah,
Hail
take a look.
Mary, Raisin and Hail Mary.
No, I don't think it's from there. I think
of course, a half to Lucas McCain. I don't know who that is.
I don't know either, but that does sound like a name that could be from a Western. Maybe that's a character Gabby Hayes played. Who knows?
I only know John McCain.
Great American. And more research required on the name Gabby Hayes. Let's talk about these Golden Gate races. So how does it always the last 2 Santa Anita races, even when there's extra Santa Anita races? So it would start with the second to last race would be the pick 4, and then the Santa Anita nightcap would be the Golden Hour double. Am I right in that?
Wait, what?
The second to last race at Santa Anita is the kickoff of the Golden Hour pick 4, and the last race is the kickoff of the double.
Yes. Yeah. It's always it's the last 2 at Santa is the Golden Hour pick 4, and the double is the last of each.
Yeah, I was thinking because there's like a big I was thinking for a minute there were more races at Santa Anita than there are. I imagine even when it's a longer, because they're not always going to line up, I wouldn't think, when you get to the big days at Santa Anita with the big days at Golden Gate, but it can easily be manipulated so that it's always going to be
Golden
those
Gate always starts later, though. I think Golden Gate is always later than Santa Anita. At least I thought.
I think that sounds right, and that's probably one way they measure up when they've got 8 and Santa has 10 or whatever to keep the golden hour bets in check. But anyway, that's how it works. And let's talk about these races that are going to be part of the golden hour sequence. The first one is race number 7, 6:54 Eastern, the scheduled post time for this all-weather mile optional claimer. I thought Limebird looked really good in here. The 2 looks like a horse to me who's better on synth and could improve second time off the layoff. I don't always have a ton of confidence at Golden Gate, but I like your way of dealing with it sometimes, JK, where you just, rather than spread for every horse that could win, you kind of pick your top one and hope to get the money. What do you like in here?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I usually treat these races. I'm either a spread or a single type. I do want to use the 1 and the 4. They're 15-1, so I'll get to those in a second. But let me wrap up your Limebird thought. Which is actually funny. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but those scooters that I rode around when we were in Santa Monica all the time, one of those brands is Bird and the other one is Lime.
Oh, that's funny.
So I'm a huge fan of this horse.
When was the last time you were on a scooter, by the way?
Well, we actually have like 3 of them here at the house. Not as nice as that one as those, but I haven't been on one like out in public since before the pandemic. But I will say this. It's on my Amazon watch list to buy one of those and take it to Saratoga with me. They're like $600. Could you imagine me in Saratoga with one of those things?
That sounds dangerous. You truly would become the hip hop Michael J. Fox.
And another thing I'll say,
backpack and your scooter.
Another thing I'll say, I'm going to go ahead and put out there, and the money listeners are going to be the only ones that know this so far. I had a conference call yesterday with Easy Go, the golf cart company, because I'm trying to get them to send a brother a golf cart that's souped up for Cart Talk this summer.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We'll be rolling in
TV
style.
exposure. Yeah, that's an everybody wins.
Saul Kuman used to have the nicest golf cart on the backside until JK showed up with that free one. There we go. Limebird is 1 for 8 off a layoff. So to your point, second off a layoff, you'd expect the horse is going to improve second off. Now, his record doesn't show that. He's 0 for 6 second off a layoff, but just the science of it tells you if he doesn't run well first off a layoff, maybe he'll improve second off. And then the 3 King of Speed, I want to use that horse as well. Just having those big dirt numbers, has some turf numbers as well. If you look at it in a very lazy way, if the horse can run on dirt and run on turf, he'll probably run on synthetic. That doesn't necessarily translate, but it could be.
Some horses will run on anything. I mean, there's logic to that.
As far as the long shots, what I'm looking at the 1 Wine and Whiskey is a little bit of a hunch play. It's basically you and me, Wine and Whiskey.
I had both yesterday. Well, part of the reason why I missed the Eclipse Awards.
You're a legend. This is a horse where if you look at the past performances and you look at the last race going 5.5, you can forgive it. It was going 5.5 versus going a mile. Maybe that's not what the horse wants to do. I love stretch outs drawn towards the inside. They can save ground on both turns, get themselves out of trouble, and then they have that nice turn of foot. So I think this horse is interesting with some back synthetic numbers that fit. And then the 4 Jammers Justice. So horse, it's tactical and it doesn't always work at Golden Gate being forwardly placed, but I can't get over the fact that a horse is 15-1 that could be on the lead and they're going to have to come catch them. Sometimes those horses get brave at big prices. So I'm going to use all 4 of the inside horses, 1, 2, 3, and 4 as A horses.
Okay, good. And I'll how would you rank them?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm ranking them in terms of who I would bet, like in a $2 win place contest, I would play the 1. Who am I betting to win? It just all depends on what the prices end up looking like at the end. I would assume that the 1 and the 4 are not going to both go off at 15-1. I feel like one of them will end up being kind of the cutesy wise guy one. So for the sake of the conversation, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2. Easy is 1, 2, 3, 4. And I ask about this not just for academic purposes, but because one of the features that our In the Money Plus subscribers get is little summaries of the show to help you look back and remember so you don't have to take notes while driving or whatever. Anyway, if you're interested in the Money Plus bonus shows.
I've done podcast driving. Grow up. You can do it.
Yeah, but you don't want to be writing and driving. Broadcasting and driving is fine.
Well, if you have a Tesla, you can. I don't have one, but
the self-driving,
Oh,
and take notes. That's awesome. InTheMoneyPodcast.com/plus to learn more about that. Your last race for today's show, JK, is Golden Gate Fields' race number 8, 7:24 Eastern, is the post time for this all-weather 5.5 furlong contest for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. 12-5 claimers down to 10. I thought the 5, Say Yes Sally, looked interesting. Possible pace edge. Like you said, that doesn't always work out at Golden Gate, but I still have to consider an advantage on a horse who I have with among the best numbers in this field. I was going to try to get out with Say Yes Sally. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you got to use that one. I mean, it's Jonathan Wong, first start with him in his career. He's 28%, 171 wins out of 617 starts. They move up when they go to his barn, and it's that obvious. And he's 28% for the meet. He's 22% for the year. This horse is going to run better than the horses run. And if he runs the race he ran 2 back, he's probably the winner in here. I also have to use the 9 towards the outside. You want to ear rip. I don't know what that is, but it's interesting name for sure. But I like the fact that this horse is getting back onto the synthetic. He's got the 2 dirt races that didn't go well. But if you look back, the last time he was at Golden Gate, ran well enough that day, got beaten a length and was right there at the end. So those are the 2 that I want to use as A horses. The 5 will be the top pick, and I'll use the 1 as a B horse. This horse just has some back numbers. You have to respect the inside draw, should be able to save some ground and make that 1 run. Could be dangerous, but I like the other 2 more.
Good stuff. All right, JK, we're going to let you go and bring in our next guest. Where can folks find you this weekend, or any other closing thoughts you might have for us?
Yeah, where am I at? Tonight I'll be at Tommy Want Wingy in Austin, Texas with the big fellas flying into town. Did you know that?
No, very exciting. Jake Ballas.
Yeah, he's going to Houston to go to Sam Houston with all of his black type thoroughbred partners. And if you have $50,000 laying around, Jake's about to buy a big horse. So if you want to get involved, holler at Jake. Maybe you can get in the mix. I think it's an interesting idea, a very interesting idea. And then what else? Saturday and Sunday, I'm on from 3 to 6, from 3 to close on the Fox show on Saturday and on Sunday. So what else? That's it.
We'll catch you there. We'll catch you there. We're going to do a special show, Nick Tamaro and I, looking at that big night at Sam Houston on Sunday. I'm booked on Sky all weekend, so I'll be there Saturday, Sunday. Folks want to reach out, have your questions answered. I'll be a captive audience Saturday and Sunday. Holler at me on Twitter, @LoomsBoldly. Find JK at UT Big Hair. We'll be talking to you soon, my man.
I got a tease. Don't let me forget. Joe Applebaum next week on JK +1.
Oh, very nice. I hadn't heard that yet. Joe, super sharp, understands things from the horseman side and certainly the horse player side, has his finger in a lot of pots. Can't wait to hear what he has to say.
See you guys.
Up next on the show, very excited to have back to the In the Money airwaves one of the newest members of the In the Money family, doing a fantastic job with the In the Ring with Acacia Courtney podcast. And you get to see her on the simulcast feed all the time, and as well as on the Fox broadcast, colleague of JK's as well. I don't know how she gets along with that guy. It's not easy. But I'm, of course, talking about Acacia Courtney herself. Acacia, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me on.
It's a great pleasure to have you, especially ahead of what promises to be such an exciting Saturday of racing at Gulfstream. I know you've got places to go, people to see. So we're going to dive right into this stakes action on the Saturday card. It starts out with race number 4, the Grade 3 Kitten's Joy Stakes, going a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds. And I think on paper, a lot of people will think this might be a match race, but we'll see if you have a more nuanced view. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I think certainly it revolves around the two horses that are undefeated on turf. You're right. You've got the speed of Kentucky Pharaoh, who's just been so good lately and was really impressive winning the Dania Beach last time. And I had liked him when he broke his maiden when he was 20-1 on the morning line and turned out to be bet down to 5-1. But definitely a horse that was happy getting back or getting to the grass, I should say, for the first time. As far as Never Surprised does go, I was actually a little bit surprised seeing how well he handled the added distance because he had debuted sprinting on the turf. He's definitely one that has a lot of speed as well. I think I respect both of them, but I'm going to try to get a little price home in here. I just kept going back to Original. I know that he broke his maiden on a yielding turf course up at Belmont, but at the time, it seemed like a pretty salty field on the grass. He took some attention, and John Terranova had a couple of these types of horses with Joel Rosario riding and switching to the grass, and they took attention. I liked him switching to the turf, and coming down here, obviously in New York right now, there's no opportunity for turf racing. So clearly, they're very keen to get him back on the grass again.
It's an interesting pick, and I like that idea with going with a horse that I think will be a decent price in this spot. And my feet held to the fire. I'd go with number 6, Never Surprise, basically on the idea that I think there's a little bit of a figure edge there and has had a little more time between the last start to maybe improve that figure a bit more. I'm going to be uncreative and call it 6-7, but I'm very interested to take a longer look at the 3 off your endorsement in that spot. Let's move ahead to race number 6. We've got the Grade 3 Swale Stakes on the dirt at 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds, a race that's really changed since the time that I came into the game. Used to be considered more of a Kentucky Derby prep, and now it seems like it's more dialed into producing sprinters, and that's the division that it fuels. I really liked number 5, Drain the Clock, in this spot. I thought would probably be able to get a nice stalk and pounce trip. And then obviously you got to talk about number 6, By George. Looked so talented on debut. My only concern is maybe at a short price, one that possibly benefited from a rail I thought was pretty good on the day of the debut run, but still a horse in great hands who should be moving forward, and one that I'd like to keep it in the mix where possible. Who do you think wins the Swale?
I agree with you. I think By George is very, very fast, and he did it easily. And obviously, the waters are deeper today, and he will have to go an extra furlong, which it seems like that's always a bit of a question. And I saw him actually the first time seeing him in the flesh when he paddock school yesterday, and he's like a rock solid, tried and true sprinter look. So I'm really encouraged to see him stretching out a little bit to the 7/8. And Gulfstream is kind to speed, and seeing a Red Ortiz take the call, I think, is pretty key as well. I'm also glad that Drain the Clock ran here instead of the Holy Bull, because they talked about maybe stretching him out a little bit. I think he's more of a sprinter. He ran very, very well in that Limehouse, though I don't think it was the deepest field looking back. But he did it so well. By George is my top pick. I do think the wild card, though, is likable. What do we get with him coming out of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and turning back to one turn? Same thing. I felt that even though he did it so impressively, it was a real big jump into the deep end that I don't think he was really ready for. I didn't like how he was training leading up to the Breeders' Cup, but it seems like they've kind of taken a step back, going back to basics and turning back for this spot.
That's an angle we often see much later in the year, the 3-year-olds giving up on the routing dream, cutting back, maybe in the form of likable. It'll happen here. At the end of the day, were you going to try to keep Drain the Clock in your picks, or were you leaning against?
I went 6-1-5, so I used Drain the Clock and third in here.
All right, let's talk about race number 9, scheduled post of 346, the Grade 3 Forward Gal Stakes, 7 furlongs on the dirt, 3-year-old fillies this time around. How did you see this one, Acacia?
Well, I was just enamored by the debut performance from Zagel for trainer Todd Pletcher, and she's already won at the 7 furlongs. That's always a big key for me. She debuted at the 7/8. She's a beautiful leggy type. And I think as, again, the distances start to get longer, the Devonadale, Gulfstream Park Oaks coming up, she's one that I'm really going to be watching. But my mouth was on the floor with how she ran in her debut. Her stablemate Unbridled Joro came back and ran second again, going a little bit longer, going the mile. And to be honest, I just don't think she's as good. I think that was definitely the much stronger part in here. So I think there's some nice horses in this race, but for me, it's all about Zodgel coming off of that very impressive maiden win.
We see it exactly the same. That was one of those races that it came back well on the clock, but it was the eyes that were the most impressive, especially because I felt like that aggressive move early-ish into that slow-ish pace means that there might be a lot more to come here with a more with a little bit more of a setup or a chance to run a little more efficiently throughout. But when you see a horse and you're sort of noticing them maybe not distributing their energy completely efficiently, not any criticism, it was the exact right strategy given the way that race was unfolding, but it just suggests one for whom there will be more to come. Love the fact that proven at the distance, like you said, we're both stone cold there in race number 9. And with that, we'll move on to race number 10, the Grade 3 Swedish Chance Stakes, mile on the turf for 3-year-old fillies. This race, I'm hoping you have more clarity than I do in here. I could tell you a story about just about all of these, but in the end, I decided to land on number 8, Director's Cut. I thought maybe the most interesting, has the big race to run back to from last August, and I thought was maybe a little bit short for that comeback race, and then that work on the 24th jumps off the page, that best of 37. I haven't seen a clocker report or anything, but I have to imagine that was an impressive move. So for the record, I'm going to go with number 8, Director's Cut, but I could back up with basically all. How do you see it?
I'm very much in agreement with you. I think kind of the spotlight will be on Con Lima, who did win the Ginger Brew in front running fashion last time. Paco Lopez actually couldn't even pick her up. He had to, or pull her up rather. He had to call one of the grooms to come and pick him up outside the winner's circle because he couldn't even pull her up and get her to stop. And she's a very quirky filly, but she's very, very fast. However, I don't know if they're going to let her be left alone on the front end again like she was last time. She really got very comfortable, and Honey Pants broke sharply, but that actually kind of took back a little bit in that race. So I would expect her to maybe be a little bit more forward. I am going to try to beat Con Lima, though. Again, I do think that she's the one to beat and just what she's done on the turf in her last couple. I'm not a Domain Expertise fan, and as much as I agree with you about Director's Cut, maybe just kind of finding her stride, I almost felt like she should have won last time. So I landed on Candace O, who this is a little bit of a kind of maybe stab in the wind type of pick, but she's one that I thought beat what seemed at the time a stacked maiden special weight field on the turf back on December 30th. I thought she ran really, really well, setting the pace to back at Aqueduct to just be picked off by a make maker filly who had a perfect trip. And it seems to me she's one of those slower developing fillies for Grand Motion. And I'm hoping once again, she just kind of sits right off the pace and gets a nice setup here.
So if I were to write down your official numbers for the record in this race, what order would you put them in?
I went 3, 4, 2, 8.
3, 4, 2, 8. Excellent. Let's talk about the final race we're going to talk about in this segment of the show. It's the Holy Bull Stakes, a race with great history, interesting rendition of it, post time 4:50. We've got 3-year-olds on the dirt going a mile and a 16th. This is another race I'll have a write-up of over on our blog, or you can go read the original over at theraces.com if you want a lot more from me on this. But Acacia, you're the one I want to hear from. Who do you like in this year's Holy Bull?
I landed on Greatest Honor. I thought that he's one that distance is going to be absolutely no problem for. Already beaten just ahead, 2 back, going 9 furlongs at Aqueduct. And then last time out in what was at the end of December, that was the only 2-year-old boys maiden special weight that Todd Pletcher did not win at Gulfstream. And that's an amazing stat. So Shug McGay, he upset him there, beating Dynamic One, who was trained by Todd Pletcher. But I think I again saw him paddock school yesterday. Big, solid colt, just looks like he wants to go the 2 turns, the classic distances, and another one who seems to be putting it together well and has the win at the distance. While both of the Pletcher runners in here, again, we talked a little bit about Likeable earlier, turning back in the swale and off the route, and maybe Kentucky Derby Dream. When you're Todd Pletcher, you've got 2 backups, and they're just waiting here on very impressive maiden wins, and they're both going to be stretching out. Prime Factor was visually sensational, but he's got to go out there and do it now against, I think, some tougher horses.
Yeah, it's an interesting clash for me between those two. And at the end of the day, it'll probably come down to price is how I actually play it. I went ahead and put Prime Factor as my top pick. I went 6-7 essentially, and we'll see what happens with the prices. My only thought there was greatest honor. He's so exciting and he's such a great prospect. I was wondering though if the market's not going to maybe crush him in, where maybe Prime Factor, even though Prime Factor is the one who's going to presumably have the pace advantage, might be a little bit better of a price. But it's also Todd Pletcher at Gulfstream. The market could just go completely crazy on those two horses, and maybe Greatest Honor will be a price. They're really co-top picks for me. You like the race. Sounds like you like the race 7-6.
I do. Yeah, I went 7-6 and then Amount after that. I thought Amount was very good, but I think Prime Factor was better as far as the two Todd Pletcher runners do go.
Makes sense. Well, I know you got a lot to do, so we're going to let you go and get ready for your day. Definitely a candidate for one of the hardest working folks in the biz. There's a lot of you in that I could throw that moniker around about, but we really appreciate you taking time out to join us today. We'll have you back on soon to talk about the revamped In the Ring and lots of other fun stuff too.
That's right. I'm enjoying being in the podcast world now full time, working on next week's episode, which will be a little Eclipse recap and looking ahead to some sales coming up next week. So stay tuned for all of that. But as always great to talk to you, Pete.
Great info for horse racing fans and horse players as well. Acacia, we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of the show. I want to thank JK and Acacia Courtney. So cool to have them both on the team, not just helping me out with the players pods, but also doing their own shows. The network continues to grow. Go to inthemoneypodcast.com and check out all our latest offerings. And one of the best ways to keep on top of all the shows dropping, everything happening in our world, is to subscribe to our absolutely free newsletter, inthemoneypodcast.com/email. Who else do I need to thank? I need to thank DJ Unstable himself, producer Craig Gorbanoff, who is very, very thankful that his marathon wasn't happening with today's weather. Talk about Nicholson at the end of The Shining. We could have had another opportunity for it right there. So thank you to him. Thanks also to our partners, our founding partners, Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. We're going to be hearing a lot more from them. We had Kim Weir on early in the week talking about their mission. That link to give, trf.org/players. Also, our friends at 10 Strike Racing. So great to have them back in the mix this year as well. Always root a little harder for the black and purple, and hope we get to see those cats and kittens again very soon. That's going to do it. This show's been a production of In the Money Media. Our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.